There's an interesting fight that's taken place that is very bizarre and actually really fascinating. Sometimes fights take place over what people don't necessarily want to do, where one side knows the other side doesn't want to do it, even though the other side has the power to do it. And it uses the reluctance of the other side as a weapon of sorts, as a brinksmanship. You saw something like this with the asymmetrical warfare between Iran and Trump. Donald Trump didn't want a war. Iran knows that Donald Trump didn't want a war. And so even though Donald Trump would be provocative, Iran would also take action that would limit itself from going too far, given this almost like leeway of option, knowing that Trump doesn't want a war and believing that he's not going to go that far. So, yes, Donald Trump is going to fly a drone over their skies, and yes, they're going to shoot that drone down. Yes, if they're going to murder Soleimani, they're going to respond. In both cases, both groups know that the other doesn't want a war, and they use the fact that the other doesn't want a war for the brinksmanship between the two parties. It's a weird brinksmanship, and yet it's brinksmanship nonetheless. They don't want to go beyond a certain point. The same thing with something similar is taking place in our domestic politics right now in D.C. As you know, the Democrats are supposed to have control of the Senate, and yet that hasn't come to pass yet. The $2,000 checks haven't gone out the door. The immigration policies haven't been worked on. The Green New Deal or whatever else, the environmental policies that Biden is supposed to be working, and none of those things have come to pass. Why not? Because there's a fight going on right now in the Senate over the issue of the filibuster. And weirdly enough, McConnell is using the filibuster to filibuster, giving control over the Democrats. Seriously. The reality of it is that Chuck Schumer could eliminate the filibuster. He has the power to do it. He, as some of the other Democrats, are reluctant to do it. And so McConnell uses the filibuster to prevent Democrats from accepting or taking power, and more importantly, tries to use that as leverage to get them to agree to a 60-vote threshold to next legislation or the legislation going forward. You would have to be insane to do that. If Democrats aren't willing to remember recent history, then they're going to lose it all, and they deserve to lose it all as the public radically betrayed by the party. Let's think back to ancient or recent history for a moment. Obama wins the election. Jesse Jackson crying on the yard, like weeping like Jesus, bubbling, crying, unabashed, unashamed, weeping. All of the people happy, all on the yard, like, yes, Obama, hope and change. We're going to have a different world. This is going to be a different country. This is going to be a different America. While people were celebrating, the Republicans were licking their wounds. Newt Gingrich, Paul Ryan, and some of the other Republicans. What are we going to do? Newt Gingrich comes up with a plan for unyielding opposition against Obama. We don't give him any wins. We're going to make him a one-term president. This isn't about loyal opposition. This is just about opposition. If Obama is going to be above politics, if he's going to be the conciliatory in chief, the guy who reaches across the aisle because he believes Republicans are going to work with him, fine. We need to make sure that doesn't work. And the reality of it is, reaching out requires two parties, not one. And so you can reach out all you want. We're just going to tell you no wins. Undying, unyielding political opposition. What's in the best interest of America doesn't matter. What is in the best interest of our party matters greatly. That was the policy. That was the thought. Now, if you remember, Obama had nearly a supermajority. He had the House, he had a supermajority in the Senate, and he had the presidency. Eventually, they lose the supermajority, and I think Scott Brown comes in from Massachusetts, which basically kills the supermajority. And at that point, what does Republicans do? Unyielding opposition. So everything gets a filibuster. Doesn't matter what it is, because the point and the goal is to kneecap Obama's agenda, whatever that agenda was. This is recent history. Harry Reid had the option of nuking the filibuster. He wouldn't do it. And what happens? He wants to preserve it. Preserve it for what? The filibuster is not a real weapon. It's not even a real defense. Fact of the matter is, if the Republicans take power immediately, if there was any chance that the Democratic Party started using the filibuster for some level of protection or intended to use it, they would tear that filibuster to shreds. And I know this because they've done this prior by eliminating aspects of the filibuster that prevented or that allowed Democrats to basically push back against some of the nominees that Trump and the Republicans were pushing through. Think back. Remember when Trump was basically saying, get my appointments through, and destroying elements of the filibuster to do it. This is ancient, or this is recent history, recent memory. Fact of the matter is, right now, the Democratic Party could rip the filibuster to shreds, and in destroying and ripping the filibuster to shreds, which again, I make the point, is not a real defense, because the moment that McConnell or whoever takes the Senate back, they are going to destroy it if there is any belief that you're going to try to use it to defend yourself and to hobble and kneecap their agenda. Mark my words. Your issue right now has to do with delivering an agenda for the American public. You've told the American public that you're going to send them out 2,000 checks. You've told them you're going to push through a $15 minimum wage. You've told them that you were going to push through this modest climate legislation. I'm making the point that you made certain promises, and those were promises in the context of an event on the orders of magnitude, the Great Depression, with a coefficient in front of it. I'm making the point that you're dealing with a public that have been hit vigorously. And within the context of being hit vigorously, the oligarchs of this country have done exceedingly well. Look at Bezos. Bezos got nearly $1 trillion. I mean, or half of several $billion over the course of this last time for the COVID stuff. Even drug makers and health insurance companies. You have the wealth of this country that have done monstrously well. And that's not just with COVID, even up to the point with COVID, with the tax cuts, either from Democratic or Republican administrations, the policy adjustments, the defending Wall Street while basically allowing homeowners to go bust. I'm making the point that at some point, when do we give attention to the poor and to the middle class and the people that make the society and allow the society to run? And the thing that's standing between you and that is the filibuster. Oh, right. And your own idea and inability to get rid of it for this kind of ancient idea of politics where you're going to believe that Mitch McConnell is somehow going to preserve this when you lose power. Or you believe that Mitch McConnell is going to not force everything to a 60-vote majority. You would need to be insane to do this, to basically trust that they won't use the 60-vote majority to hobble your presidency. You would have to be the sucker of the year to basically allow them to hobble and frustrate your particular agenda, when the entire point, what they understand, is that with all power given to Democrats, with the public overtly giving you that power in historic elections in Georgia, Biden takes Georgia. And for the first time ever, Democrats, too, win in the runoffs in Georgia. The country gave you power. And the point was for you to use it. If you're going to let what basically has happened before to happen again, I don't know the next time Democrats are going to be in power. But I tell you this, if you don't use the power that the public gave you, it will be very short term in power. And in the same way that Obama had it all, House, Senate, and presidency, supermajority in the Senate, he lost it all to the point where Donald Trump ends up being your president and Republicans take the House, the Senate, and the Supreme Court. Understand that some Democrats are concerned about the filibuster and want to preserve it. But it's not a real defense, considering they will rip it away from you the moment that you lose power. Your best bet is to take power and to keep power by basically passing legislation and being advocates for the public. And if you're not willing to do that, you will suffer because of it. McConnell knows exactly what he's doing. You would have to be suckers to allow McConnell to hobble your agenda by forcing everything to a 60-vote majority. Destroy the filibuster and pass an agenda for the American public. Shane, what do you think?